Welcome back. In the first part of our journey, we unveiled the Book of Enoch, witnessed the Watcher's blasphemous oath on Mount Hermon, and began to understand the nature of the forbidden knowledge they brought to humanity, gifts that quickly curdled into curses, Azazel's weapons of war and allurements of vanity, Samyaza's dark enchantments, and the myriad of other arts began to unravel the fabric of early human society. But the Watcher's transgression was not limited to the imparting of forbidden secrets. Their most direct and perhaps most monstrous act was their physical union with human women. This unnatural alliance was destined to spawn offspring that would further plunge the world into darkness. The Book of Enoch, chapter 7, graphically describes the consequences of this unholy union. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. These offspring were the Nephilim, the giants of ancient legend. Their very existence was an abomination, a grotesque distortion of divine creation. Imagine beings of immense stature, driven by an insatiable hunger. They first consumed all the resources humanity had gathered. When that was not enough, they turned on humanity itself, devouring people. Their rapaciousness didn't stop there. They preyed upon animals, and eventually, in their depravity, upon each other, drinking blood and consuming flesh. The world, under the reign of these giants, descended into primordial chaos. The gifts of the Watchers, warfare, vanity, magic, were now amplified by the brute force and cannibalistic terror of their offspring. The earth groaned under this burden. Justice was non-existent, peace a forgotten dream. Humanity, once guided by celestial beings, was now hunted by their monstrous progeny. The cries of the oppressed, the blood of the innocent, rose to the heavens. The Book of Enoch states that the earth, made desolate, cried out to the gates of heaven. Humanity, in its agony, finally looked upwards, not to the fallen Watchers who had deceived them, but to the ultimate source of justice. This reign of terror, this era of giants, was a direct consequence of the Watchers' choice. They sought to play God, to merge the celestial with the terrestrial in a way that was never intended. The result was not enlightenment, but a nightmare. The pleas of humanity and the desecration of earth did not go unnoticed. The Book of Enoch describes how the archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down from heaven, witnessed the bloodshed and lawlessness, and brought the case before God. God's response was decisive and severe. The era of unchecked sin was to end. Firstly, judgment was pronounced upon the leaders of the fallen Watchers. To the archangel Uriel, God said, "Go to Noah and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it." This was the first intimation of the great flood, a cataclysmic cleansing. To Raphael, God commanded, "Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Uriel, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire." Azazel, the purveyor of weapons and vanity, was to be utterly imprisoned and ultimately destroyed. To Gabriel, God said, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. The giants, the Nephilim, were to be turned against each other, their violent nature becoming the instrument of their own demise. And to Michael, God commanded, "Go, bind Samyaza and his associates who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever." Samyaza and his cohorts were to witness the death of their offspring, and then be imprisoned for millennia, awaiting a final, fiery judgment. It is crucial to note the fate of the Nephilim. While their physical bodies were destroyed, the Book of Enoch states that from their bodies, evil spirits have proceeded. These spirits, born of an unnatural union, were doomed to roam the earth, corrupting, falling, fighting and bruising on the earth, and causing trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst, and cause offenses. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. This is a key Enochian explanation for the origin of demons. They are the disembodied spirits of the dead Nephilim, continuing to plague humanity. And what of Enoch himself in all this? He acted as an intermediary. After the Watchers learned of their impending doom, they were filled with terror and implored Enoch to write a petition for them, to intercede with God on their behalf. Enoch did so, but in a vision, God confirmed his judgment. Enoch was then tasked with delivering this final, unalterable verdict to the fallen Watchers. They had sought forgiveness, but their sins were too great, their betrayal too profound. Their fate was sealed. The flood was thus not merely a punishment for human sin, as often simplified, but a cosmic cleansing necessitated by the Watchers' rebellion, the abominations of the Nephilim, and the pervasive corruption they had unleashed. It was a way to wash the earth clean of this profound spiritual and physical contamination. We have focused heavily on Samyaza, the overall leader, and Azazel, the most notorious corrupter. But the Book of Enoch names other chieftains among the 200 Watchers, each contributing to humanity's downfall with their specific teachings. Their stories paint a fuller picture of this cosmic sabotage. We've already listed some earlier, but let's reflect on a few more whose influence was particularly insidious. Baraqijal, or Raphael. He taught astrology. While the study of stars itself can be neutral, in this context, it led to fatalism, divination divorced from divine will, and, likely, the worship of celestial bodies, diverting humanity from the true God. Knowledge of cosmic patterns, when untethered from spiritual wisdom, became a tool for superstition and misdirection. Kokabel, or Kokabel, meaning star of God, he taught the portents of the stars, or the lore of constellations. Similar to Baraqijal, this knowledge, meant for understanding God's creation, was twisted. It could have been used to create false cosmologies, to justify power structures, or to lead people into esoteric cults that challenged divine authority. The star of God ironically became a guide into darkness. Tamiel, or Kasdea, meaning concealed by God or power of God. He taught the smitings of spirits and of demons, and the smitings of the embryo in the womb, that it may pass away. This is perhaps one of the darkest gifts. It points to destructive magic, curses, attacks on the unborn, a direct assault on life and the sanctity of human generation. This knowledge went beyond mere corruption. It was actively malevolent. Armaros, or Amasras, he taught the resolving of enchantments. This might seem positive, like a counterspell. However, in a world increasingly filled with the dark arts introduced by his brethren, this knowledge could also be part of the same dangerous system, a way to engage in magical warfare or to create a dependency on those who held such power, further entangling humanity in occult practices rather than turning them towards divine aid. Shamsiel, or Samyaza, meaning Sunday of God, he taught the signs of the sun, like Kokabel with the stars. This knowledge pertaining to the sun, perhaps its cycles, its power, its symbolic meaning, could be easily perverted into sun worship, a common form of idolatry in the ancient world, drawing reverence away from the unseen creator. These leaders, each a specialist in some form of forbidden fruit, collectively engineered a comprehensive deviation for humanity. It wasn't just about carnal sin or isolated acts of violence. It was a systematic introduction of knowledge and practices that would redefine human society, values, and spiritual orientation, steering them away from the divine plan. Their names, though now obscure to most, resonate through millennia in hidden streams of occult lore and demonology, a testament to the profound and terrifying impact attributed to them by the author of the Book of Enoch. The fall of these gods was not just their own tragedy, but a catalyst for a profound shift in the human condition, the echoes of which, some might argue, we still feel today. So, why was the Book of Enoch, with its rich and terrifying narratives, largely excluded from canonical scriptures? Its detailed angelology and demonology, the explicit account of fallen angels physically interacting with humans and producing offspring, the attribution of specific cultural and technological advancements to these fallen beings, all this presented a cosmology that was perhaps too complex, too challenging, or too mythological for later theological frameworks aiming for a more streamlined and abstract understanding of good, evil, and the divine. The idea that angels, beings of light, could fall not just through pride, like Lucifer in later traditions, but through lust, and could directly interfere in human lineage and development in such a physical manner, raised uncomfortable questions about the nature of spiritual beings and the security of God's creation. The origins of evil, as depicted in Enoch, stemming from these fallen watchers and the spirits of their Nephilim offspring, offered an alternative, or at least a significant elaboration, to other explanations. Furthermore, its apocalyptic visions, its emphasis on esoteric knowledge revealed to Enoch, and its messianic prophecies, while influential, may have contained elements that diverged enough from what became Orthodox Christian doctrine to warrant its marginalization. The Gnostic undertones, the emphasis on secret revelations and cosmic hierarchies, were viewed with suspicion by an emerging church keen on establishing a unified, accessible faith. Yet, to be forgotten by the mainstream does not mean to be erased. The Book of Enoch continued to flow like an underground river, profoundly influencing Jewish mysticism, like the Kabbalah, Christian esoteric traditions, and even Islamic lore. Its themes, characters, and imagery have surfaced and resurfaced in literature, art, and theological debate for centuries. The figures of Samyaza, Azazel, and their kin became archetypes in demonology. The story of the Nephilim fueled endless speculation about giants in ancient history. What the Book of Enoch offers us is a glimpse into a different kind of ancient religiosity, One where the boundaries between the divine, the human, and the demonic were perhaps more fluid, more entangled. It presents a world alive with spiritual forces, where knowledge was power, and power could corrupt, absolutely, even those who once stood in heaven. The story of these fallen gods is a stark reminder of the perils of unchecked ambition, the seduction of forbidden knowledge, and the responsibility that comes with power. It forces us to ask, what is true wisdom, and what is merely dangerous information? How do we discern between guidance and manipulation? And what ancient truths might still lie buried, waiting for us to rediscover them, not just as forgotten myths, but as keys to understanding the deeper, often unsettling, complexities of our own existence and the cosmos itself? The mists of time are thick, but sometimes, if we listen carefully, we can still hear the whispers of these erased chapters, prompting us to question, to explore, and perhaps to reevaluate the very foundations of what we believe we know. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of the Book of Enoch and the saga of the fallen Watchers. The ocean of forgotten knowledge is vast, and we have but skimmed its surface. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking,